Hey everyone, welcome back to my Baby Steps series. In this video is another Q&A where I'll be answering the questions that you have asked on my website forum. So this question was a little bit of question, and it looks like there's a little bit of advice sprinkled in there. I'm not too sure. After trying years to conceive, the time, the money, when does the dream you share to have your own child get quietly tucked away? Do you change your dream and focus on other options? Are these even options? Surrogacy, adoption, foster, or moving forward with no children? Life is cruel sometimes. Counting one's blessings like finding your soulmate, making a good life, family, friends, health, etc. are good to do. There are many stories full of advice about how and why we should move forward. How are you dealing with that pressure and advice, and how are you keeping your marriage strong? So there's a lot to unpack here. So as far as the first part of the question about asking after how long or like what would bring you to the decision to quietly tuck the dream of having your own children away. So for my personal situation, we haven't gotten to that point yet. We're not even close. Reasons being is I'm only 30 and my doctor is still very confident that I can get pregnant with my own eggs. It's just a matter of when. And if that doesn't work, then the next thing we would consider is donor eggs. But I've kind of been looking more into donor eggs now just to kind of familiarize myself with the possibility and with the idea, getting a better sense of how that might all work, because I know that if we ever get to a point where my doctor says that he doesn't think my eggs are an option anymore and that I should consider the donor egg route, if I was just told that one day without mentally preparing myself beforehand for it, then that would be absolutely devastating. So I'm trying to just ease it into my brain space now so that if the time comes, then I'm more ready to hear it and I'm more prepared to move forward with it. And the way I kind of see it right now is all we have is time. And Peter and I are very lucky to be in a situation where we can afford it to an extent. So I'm genuinely not sure when I would be able to quietly tuck that dream away. I can see it being a long time before I would ever give up having kids completely. As far as are these even options? So one of the things that the question didn't mention was donor eggs, which is the one that we would be considering. The other ones, such as surrogacy, we don't necessarily know at this point if that would be a necessity for us. We haven't been given any indication that I would not be able to carry a pregnancy to term. I have had one chemical miscarriage, but those are wildly common, and many people who have had chemical miscarriages have gone on to have healthy pregnancies. So as far as I know from all the tests that I've done so far, there's no reason to believe that I wouldn't be able to carry a pregnancy and carry one to term. As for adoption or fostering, that would probably be the last thing that we would consider in terms of the list of all of the options. So like donor eggs, embryo adoption, surrogacy, adoption. I think I am 100% capable of loving a child as my own. And like I know this because I loved the kids in my preschool center, and going through this infertility stuff and thinking about adoption, I am presented with the situation like, could I love a child that isn't biologically my own? And when I was thinking about the kids that were in my life, I was with them for most of my days, Monday to Friday. If I imagined myself in a situation where I saw this child, let's say I'm thinking about one of my preschool kids, and I had the option to adopt them, I knew through kind of those scenarios playing in my head that I would be able to love a child that was not biologically mine, but it still takes a lot of, mental preparedness to get to that point and grieve the loss of having a biological child, because it is a loss to a lot of people. A lot of people may not feel that way. I would. And adoption and fostering comes with their own complications and heartaches as well, which it would be a whole other thing to prepare for. It comes with its own list of costs and hoops that you have to jump through. Fostering, for example, like I would love to give a child a home that maybe didn't have the best circumstances, but I don't know if I would do well in a situation where I become attached to a child, because I would get attached very quickly, very easily. I don't know if I could be in a situation where I could get attached to a child and then that child goes back to their families, or an adoption falls through, or any of those scenarios. That would be its own heartbreak in and of itself, because that would be a situation where you're actually losing a tangible child that is in your home. Like, you have this child, but you don't really have this child. And the last option, moving forward with no children, again, we're not anywhere near that, and I don't think I would be near making that decision for a long time. To me right now, if I'm being honest, that's not an option for me. I refuse to let that be an option for me. But everyone's journey to get to that point is different. Some people take longer than others. Some people never reach that type of acceptance. Some people do. Everyone's journey is different, and everyone needs to get there on their own terms. someone else telling them like you need to move on or move forward or give up on this dream and live the rest of your life and appreciate what you have isn't going to make that acceptance come any easier or any faster for the person going through it. And in general, up to this point, we haven't really had any pressure or advice encouraging us to stop trying now. Because of our age, I would be really surprised if someone we knew approached us and said, you know, like, I think you've been trying long enough. I think you should, you know, just accept your losses and move on. I would be really surprised if someone approached us with that, because we are still young and we've only reached the tip of the iceberg in terms of trying all the things that we could try to build our family. But if I was approached with that situation, I'd probably deal with it really directly. I think in the past I would have kind of tiptoed around the subject and just kind of like nodded my head and be like, yep, and just acted like I was taking their advice and, you know, really considering it. But now that I'm more open and vocal about infertility and everything that we're going through, I'd probably deal with it really directly and pretty much say that what they're saying is not helpful. I would probably ask them point blank, I'm like, by telling me that I should stop trying, what are you trying to achieve? What type of emotional outcome are you hoping for in me? And how do you believe that you telling me this is helpful? And I feel like that would kind of make them stop in their tracks a little bit and think a little bit more about what they're saying. Because ultimately, it's no one else's decision what I do with my life or what I do with my money or how I decide to spend it or what I do with my body. And if we want to spend it all on fertility treatments, even if it doesn't work, and yes, it is so frustrating knowing that we spent $20,000 on literally nothing. We've had nothing to show for that. I hate thinking about that, and I don't let myself think about that because it'll drive me nuts. But if that's what we want to spend our money on, if that's worth it to us, then that's what we're going to do. And it's really no one else's business. And if anything, giving up now would have more of a negative effect on my friends and family than it would if we continued trying. Like, my parents would be so sad to know that they would never become grandparents. My friends would be so sad for me. Like, so many people would be so upset by us deciding to stop trying. Guaranteed. I can tell you that with certainty. As for keeping our marriage strong, I'm not sure if my answer to this one will be super helpful, because I know that marriage is especially strained for a lot of couples going through infertility. And I understand all the reasons why. It's a really hard thing to go through. It's especially hard when, like, let's say only one person has the medical problem. There can be a lot of internal blame or taking it out on the other person. The hormones make you nuts. You know, you kind of tend to take out these emotions on the people that are closest to you, and that's often the people that are living in your own house, which is often your spouse or significant other. And that happens a lot. For Peter and I can't really say that it's really affected our marriage at all, which is a good thing, and I know that's not a common outcome. My feelings about it, about the infertility, have always been separate from my marriage. That's how it's always been from the very beginning. And Peter and I have our routines. We've fallen into a pattern of we know what each other needs in various situations. And we work pretty well as a team when it comes to this stuff. It's a little bit frustrating, but it's also really helpful in a lot of ways that he is the more level-headed one. He really just deals with it all as we go, and it doesn't really affect him, at least visibly. And in a way that's really good, because then he can keep me grounded and focus on getting me through it. Yeah, we're doing good in that regard, and we're ready to move forward with whatever is next. I'm getting a little bit scatterbrained. I hope I addressed all the aspects of your question, and if anyone has any other questions, again, feel free to visit Life's Baby Steps, my website. It's linked down below, and you can leave your own questions. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.